You have around 19 hotels in India. By how much are you looking at expanding over the next, say, 2 fiscals?
We have 19 hotels open, as you say. We opened 5 in 2013, and we've got 45 in our pipeline. So that's signed contracts for us to add new hotels, many of which are under construction. And actually that makes India our 3rd largest pipeline in the world. So our biggest market is the US, our 2nd biggest market is China, our 3rd biggest pipeline is India. So we're very optimistic if you look at the dynamics, particularly the demographics in India, and the growth of middle class and the wealth creation. There's a lot of opportunity. And we're here with 4 of our brands: Intercontinental at the luxury end, Crowne Plaza, Holiday Inn Express. And the bulk of our growth is that mainstream mid-market Holiday Inn Express business, and we're very optimistic about that.
So in terms of investment, how much are you looking at investing in India?
Look, it's a great question. Now, once we've opened all of the hotels, and we have over 60 hotels here, then it will certainly be a meaningful market. We have currently, it's about getting on around 250 hotels in the whole of Asia, Middle East, Africa. So you can see that would make it a major proportion. But that is one of the issues in India, is the slow pace. There's a lot of pent-up demand for hotel rooms. There's a lot of demand from owners and a lot of capital available to build hotels, but it takes an awfully long time to build a hotel in India relative to many other markets. And so if we can speed that up, then that'll enable it to become a much bigger piece of the pie very quickly. But the other thing I think that's interesting about India is, if you look at the hotel market globally, we think there's 10 markets that represent about 75% of the growth in hospitality over the next 10 years. And that includes some maturer markets like US and UK or Germany, but it also includes a number of fast-growing markets, of which India is one. So we see India as one of the top 10 growth markets in the next 10 years. And hopefully we're underestimating its opportunity, but it will require partnership with government and regulators and so on to actually accelerate that growth.
So in terms of revenues, India isn't a very significant pie. By when do you expect India to claw into more revenues, in terms of global reach?
Well, when we think about investment, the vast bulk of our business is working with third-party owners. So through management contracts, we run the hotels and the owner builds it. So we did a deal with Duet to effectively launch and roll out the Holiday Inn Express brand in India. And we we haven't invested it yet, about $30 million in total against that. But because we're a brand owner and a manager of hotels, our investment is more in people, in infrastructure, in brand development, in training, in all those things. So we bring all of that sort of infrastructure, process and support to owners to make sure that the hotels are going to be successful.
How does India stack up in the emerging markets as a whole?
Well, the advantage of a company like us is we are one of the largest hotel companies in the world. We're in 100 different countries. And as I said, there's 10 we focus on, but they're not mutually exclusive. So where India is in the top 10, and the top 10 are where we're very focused. So that's really all that matters. But I think just following on from where you're coming from, we're prepared to invest the resource and the people and so on to make India a big and successful market for us. There actually isn't really a shortage of domestic capital. And I've had the pleasure in the few days I've been in India this week, meeting with some very important owners who own our hotels or we would like to do business with. There's capital out there. Debt is a bit expensive, but their lack of certainty is what's holding some of it back. So I think there's a lot of domestic capability and capital and interest. The hotel industry doesn't require foreign investment. It will be nice, but it doesn't need it. There's plenty of domestic capacity and those are the people we're working with.
There has been a lot of gloom and doom when it comes to regulatory clarity. Going ahead, given that you are looking at expanding in India, what are the areas that need to be cleared out by the government?
I think it is. It's the amount of regulatory involvement in building and opening a hotel is one thing. So if you think in many markets, certainly in faster growing markets and in the Western markets, 2 to 3 years to open a hotel could be 4, 5, 6 years in India. So if you're actually looking at the value creation of an investment, those years when the hotel isn't open in an era of high interest rates is very, very difficult. The other area is infrastructure investment. Hotels actually follow tarmac, whether that's roads or runways, or in the case of India and China, railways, maybe not tarmac. So infrastructure investment, urbanization, requires hotels, and it's a sort of symbiotic relationship, so that's important. I think the third thing is that we need skilled people to work in hotels. And we work quite a lot ourselves to help that. That doesn't, we can do self-help. We don't need to rely on the government for that. So we have what we call the IHG Academy program. We have over 300 of them around the world. I had the pleasure of being in Delhi yesterday, and we opened our 15th in India in partnership with ILNFS, which is a vocational program. So through a 90-day course, we'll take people unskilled in the hospitality industry. We've created a program. We'll provide trainers and colleagues from our business to help develop them, to bring people into hospitality, because there is a shortage, and India is not unique in that sense. So we can do something to help that, but obviously, again, government can actually help educate people in ways that will create resources for us, because ultimately hotels are about the people who deliver the experience way more than the physical box. But I think those are probably the key areas of focus. But having said that, 19 open, 45 in the pipeline, that's a big percentage growth, so we're excited about it.
Taking from that question, how much of a role will elections play in you looking at expanding your footprint? Because we've been talking to several foreign investors who have expressed that they will expand further, but only after the elections throw some clarity on the overall regulatory certainty in the country.
It always helps. Having certainty is important for investment, but actually honestly, our shortest contracts are 20-year agreements, and we have 30, 40, 50-year agreements. So governments will come and go. So certainty helps, but actually it's much more about what are the dynamics of the market. And I often get asked, and you haven't asked me, I often get asked in India about all the problems and comparing India with China and all of that. And I think that's a little off beam. When we look at India, India has many of the same issues, good and bad, as other markets. And from a good perspective, growing population, consumers understand brands. They want brands they can trust. So for an international company like us, which is all about creating differentiated brands that actually have an experience consumers want, underpinned by the sort of trust mark of IHG, we're beautifully placed to be successful and more successful in India. And I think that's the long-term focus that we've got.
What are the cities that you're looking at expanding in? Is this largely Tier 1 or is this Tier 2 and Tier 3? Because we have seen several hoteliers expand in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities as well actively.
It's 1 and 2. I think it's an interesting thing about India, which is different to some other markets, is we tend to think of India as individual city strategies. So in some markets, US, China, UK, we have a national strategy because the market and the infrastructure is developed well. In India, it's really city strategies. So it's the major population centres, of which is primarily Tier 1 cities, but some Tier 2 also.